None of us would be where we are today without our mothers. That is an indisputable fact. Their job is to love, support, and sometimes be a personal psychiatrist to those they care about. Whether they stay at home or bring in the bread themselves, everything they do is ultimately to make the lives of their families better. And we've reached the one time of year specifically devoted to considering and appreciating the sacrifices they make every minute of every hour of the other 364 days of the year. And wouldn't you know it, video games have had some pretty impressive mothers of their own. Characters that capture that essence of not only personal sacrifice, but also the kindness, selflessness, and devotion that makes their role in each of our lives so important. These are video game women who aren't just mothers by title. The role has to be a focal point of the character to make this list, so no half-hearted attempts at parental prowess allowed here. So, with that out of the way, let's take a loving look at the top 8 moms in video games.
Number 8.
Moms are awesome for many reasons. They can guide you in the right direction in life, they can put a warm meal in your belly, and they can offer you moral support when you decide what it is you want to do for a living. Not many of them gave up a life of high-seas piracy to marry your father, though. This is the case for Grandia's Lily. This woman is such a perfect parent for her son Justin, it's kind of hilarious. And I don't mean she spoils him either, quite the contrary as a matter of fact. I mean that it's because of her that he became an adventurer in the first place. Either directly or indirectly, she inspired him to follow in his father's footsteps and find the answers to the questions he spent his whole life trying to answer. I love how she's a great counterweight to Justin too. He's got incredibly high ambitions, but without a proper means of realizing them, the town he lives in, things can devolve into mischief pretty quickly, for which Lily is more than ready to scold him. But when he starts aiming that machine in a more positive, constructive direction, she's behind the boy 100%. She's been through all this before, and while she regrets some of the things she did when she was younger, she uses that experience to make sure her son has a better chance at looking on his own adventures more fondly. And that's part of what a good parent does. They inspire as well as advise, making sure you learn everything they did over their whole lives when you're still young, ensuring you have an even better chance than they did. And I don't think any first-rate adventurer could have asked for more.
Number 7.
When doing research for this list, I found a lot of people throwing props towards the various moms of the Pokemon series, and even Gina from Chrono Trigger. I will admit, offering you a place to come back to and rest when your adventure leaves you weary is a pretty motherly thing to do, but there's only one video game mom that not only does that, but also offers you a warm meal on return visits, equips you for the journey ahead when your quest begins, and even suggests you take the dog with you as well, just in case you need the extra protection. For crying out loud, the series is literally called Mother. I'd be daft not to include it here. But what really sets her apart is how far Ness's mom goes above and beyond for you. She'll comfort you over the phone if you're feeling homesick. She'll cover for you when your teacher stops by looking for you. She even gives sass to that little turd Pokey. I love this woman. Now here's an interesting theory about this character. Some people believe that Ness's mom is actually Anna from Mother 1. This is because they have the same hair color, she's depicted holding a frying pan in her official artwork, which was Anna's main weapon type, and the theme that plays when you return home is a version of Pollyanna, Anna's theme. Come to think of it, she does seem awfully chill about the fact that Ness is going on an adventure to save the world, and that her son spontaneously develops psychic powers for that matter. And like Lily, this might be because of her previous experiences. To me, the idea that the legacy of one game carries directly into the other puts a stamp of thematic glory on this series, at least the first 2 games. It realizes its namesake by making these characters an inseparable part of the experience. And that's to say nothing about Hinawa in Mother 3 and how she was a driving force of the plot. This series is famous for many reasons, and Ness's mom is one of my personal favorites.
Number 6.
Act like you didn't see this one coming. This one is of particular note because not only is Mama an actual mom, and not only is she the main character, which is also unusual for this category, but it's one of the few games in existence where a version of the word is in the title, the other 3 of which I already talked about. Yes, it's a minigame collection. Yes, the series hasn't evolved much over the years. Yes, Mama's dialogue is a series of canned phrases delivered by someone who can barely speak English. I know, I'm aware, Hear me out. Learning is a complicated process. Any educational expert will tell you as much. Everyone learns in their own unique way, but one of the best ways to learn is to get a good mentor. And being a mentor is hard. It requires a lot of time, a lot of patience, and maybe even some creative thinking skills to work your way around your students' problems. So with that in mind, in a base sense, I'd argue Cooking Mama is a great mentor for anyone learning the essential skills needed to be a parent. No child is going to be born perfect. They'll stumble, they'll fail, they'll let you down sometimes because they don't know any better, and sometimes you'll get mad at them. You can't help it, you're only human. But then you step back, take a deep breath, and say, it's okay, let's try again. It's that mental journey of watching a skill set that isn't your own grow and flourish. It's that satisfying feeling that you left someone else in your life better off than they were at the start. It's that unbelievable joy when the student becomes the master, when there is nothing left to teach, and from this point on, they carry your wisdom and, in a way, your legacy with them into a future of unknown possibility. The greatest joy of a parent is to see their child grow up, and when you get that perfect rating on any particular project, Mama could not be happier.
Number 5.
These days, the worst threat a parent would have to deal with would be a particularly aggressive bully, and believe you me, my mom put a fair share of those in their place when I was younger. Back in darker times, though, your family's safety was something you literally had to fight for. As hard as it is, sometimes life throws you a curveball and it puts you in uncomfortable situations. But those with enough resolve can overcome that strife. And if there's one thing matriarchal duties provide you, it's a lot of resolve. Sophie Tia wants nothing more than to keep her children safe from the corruption of the evil sword Soul Edge, not knowing that in her battle against the Blade years ago, she had become somewhat tainted by its evil, and that darkness spread to her offspring. Drawn to that power, her daughter, Pyrrha, became so influenced by the Blade's evil energy that she could no longer survive without its power. This dark sword, her sworn enemy, and the cause of all her suffering, was now the only way her children could go on. So with a heavy heart, Sophie Tia makes the incredibly hard moral choice of taking down any righteous warrior come to destroy the Blade. Sophie Tia is a tragic hero, manipulated by forces outside her control and put in a quandary of what's more important to her. You may think her selfish to put her children over the fate of the entire world, but that's just it. When you're a parent, your children are your world. They mean everything to you. Their well-being becomes more valuable than life itself, and without spoilers, you bet Sophie Tia's got that base covered too. Only a person with something to protect would throw herself against the blades of men, beasts, monsters, and who knows what else in the hope that they can buy just one more day of happiness. And that kind of devotion is one very sharp blade.
Number 4.
But if you think taking care of 2 children is a huge responsibility, try being the mother of millions. Rosalina is the caretaker of beings called Lumas, whose purpose in life is to someday grow up into planets, systems, and even entire galaxies. This essentially makes her God in the Mario universe, and when you get a better look at her demeanor, you start to understand why she's a perfect fit for the job. Rosalina practically radiates kindness. She's a character that makes you feel at ease just by being around her. The way she speaks, the way she looks, and even the way she acts all convey a person of great power, but also of great elegance and bottomless love. This is the reason she looks so much more mature than the other Nintendo princesses. Peach is like a cheerleader. She looks pretty and she's got plenty of pep, but that's about all she's got going for her. Daisy is the girl on the team Peach is cheering for, making the goals, getting dirty, and proudly bragging later about the wicked bruises on her knees. She's maybe a little lacking in the grace department, though, and can come off as blunt and abrasive at times. But Rosalina is the older woman in the bleachers watching both of them, providing them the stable home necessary to allow them to be here in the first place. She's wise, experienced, and extremely well-traveled. She has a deep, almost mystical understanding of the universe as a whole that you and I can't even begin to fathom. And just try to tell me you didn't at least sniffle during her backstory. You won't convince me. Rosalina's journey taught her to love so passionately it took her across the entire length of space. To know that the future of all life in Mario's realm of existence is in her hands has gotta be comforting, because in the arms of someone like Rosalina, even the bad times seem good again.
Number 3.
If you have a taste for RPGs and you've never played Valkyria Chronicles, you should probably get on that. It's one of my favorite games ever made, in no small part to the aesthetic. Not just because it's visually stunning, but because those visuals allow for an incredibly diverse set of characters. You can tell so much about these people just by looking at their faces, by reading the subtle traits crafted into every inch of their designs. And one of the most well-realized designs of all of them isn't even a character you control yourself. Her name is Martha Lipponen. What makes her such a good mom? Let me just read off this resume to you. As a child, Martha enjoyed caring for others. Her mother worked as a servant for main character Welkin's household, and Martha often helped with the work, especially when it came to caring for the young Mr. Gunther. She admits later that even back then, she planned on working in Welkin's household, and that dream became real around the time his adopted sister Isara joined the picture. They essentially became her children, and she treats them as such, even after they grew into adults themselves. She eventually got married and had 4 actual children of her own, who all moved into the Gunther estate with her. When the Second World War started to break out, she sent her husband and children off to the capital to be safe, but stayed behind to make sure Welkin and Isara came safely with her. I also want to point out that Martha was pregnant at this time, but refused to let even that slow her down in her duties to these two. Then, when Imperial troops attacked the town, the shock sent Martha into labor, and she eventually gave birth inside the tank they used to escape. But even that wasn't enough for this superhuman caretaker. She was eventually reunited with her real family, but when Welkin and Isara got drafted into the militia, she became a cook at the mess hall, hoping to offer them support in any way she could. In the face of war, in the face of one of the roughest processes a woman's body can go through, and even in the light of being separated from her own flesh and blood, Martha could not bear to leave a single member of her family behind, and even after all that, still continued to support them without even stopping to rest. If that doesn't make her an incredible mom, I don't know what does.
Number 2.
If we're talking personal sacrifice for what you love, one character has every other mom in video game history beat. The boss gave up everything for what she thought was right. And I do mean everything. Only a handful of people in the Metal Gear universe know exactly how far her devotion went. Her actions ensured her son a future. Her tutelage turned Snake into the hardened soldier he needed to be. And her, quote, betrayal ended up saving the lives of thousands, if not millions of people. It is heartbreaking having to fight her at the end of the game, knowing what she did and how much she means to the main character. And it all ensures that that last button is one of the hardest ones you'll ever have to press. But you do it because you have to. Just like she had to do what she did as well. There are no questions of what if in a mom's mind. You love your children because you know on an instinctive level that it's the right thing to do. Some do it with undying support, some do it with careful discipline, and some even do it by challenging their children, pushing them towards greatness where they otherwise wouldn't push themselves. Everyone may have a different way of going about it, but the goal is always the same. When you, as their child, walk out of this, you'll be stronger, smarter, more prepared for the world ahead of you. And the only thing they ask in return is that you recognize that.
It's number 1.
I think we've established a lot of points over the course of this countdown. The fact is, moms are superhumans. They had to be if they put up with you your whole life. There's a reason you find so many pictures online of housewives with 18 different arms, each one occupied with a different tool or task. It's a pretty accurate depiction. But quite possibly their most powerful tool of all is making you feel loved, to ensure you that there is always at least one person out there who cares for you, no matter what happens. That said, let me tell you about a man named Katsuya Eguchi. This man had to move 300 miles from his home to work for Nintendo, and it left him torn inside. In his own words, I realized that being close to them, being able to spend time with them, talk to them, play with them, was such a great, important thing. I wondered for a long time if there would be a way to recreate that feeling, and that was the impetus behind the original Animal Crossing. Look at the letters you get in this game. See who one of them is from? Your mom. Even though you've moved out and started a life of your own, here she is, offering warm words of encouragement and sending everything from money and food to even furniture to put in your new house. She doesn't even have a face, and yet you feel such a strong connection to this character. The vagueness is intentional. It allows you to put whatever you like in that void and imagine your in-game mom to be the one that's already made your life so special. It's just one more way the game captures that feeling of bringing you that comfort and joy where there might otherwise be none. But there's one more reason this is number one, and I admit, it's a lot more personal. Mom, I know you're watching this because I force you to watch everything I make. I didn't tell her I was going to do this, by the way. I don't know if I can even properly express how I feel towards you. Everything I've said about all these characters, I see a little bit in you. Everything I love in life, you introduced me to. My favorite foods, the way I think, the way I feel. You never stopped standing by me. You never hesitated for even a second if it meant making my life better. I'll admit, it hasn't been easy. Things got really dark for me there for a little while, and God knows you've got your own problems to deal with these days. But even when I said I was quitting my job in retail, even when I told you I was taking the chance on an unsteady paycheck in the hopes that my dreams would come true someday, you were there for me. You told me it would happen, that my efforts wouldn't be in vain, and that with enough work, enough belief, and enough drive, I could be doing what I love for a living. It's kind of funny. When I was really little, you thought I wasn't going to live past 5, that you'd kill me first. I remember stories of you calling up Nana one day and asking, "Where's the off switch?" Now look at where we are. These days it feels like I'm harder on myself than you are on me. But I think that's a good thing, because we're getting there. In fact, as of this recording, we're over 1,100 subscribers and growing by the day. And it's because of you. It's because you spent a large portion of your life working tirelessly just to give me this chance, so that I could do the one thing that makes me truly happy. Soon I'll be moving out on my own and leaving almost everything I've ever known behind. But I'm not sad, because I will succeed. At the very least, I owe you that. Thank you, Mom. I love you so much. Hey, you like countdown videos? I can't guarantee all the ones I make have that level of feels, but I can guarantee the same amount of heart was put into each and every one of them. Click that card in the corner for the playlist, or this annotation to see my top 8 hidden video games. If you prefer a more Let's Play style of videos, me and my good friend Drawman are also playing Shovel Knight over on the Team Pizza Plays channel right now, which is an awesome game that makes you feel awesome for playing it. So what are you waiting for? Don't you like feeling awesome? Also be sure to check me out on Facebook and Twitter, and please consider subscribing so you can be the first to catch the new countdowns that I post every single weekend. So until then, I am Whatthefnu. Later, everybody!